And so at this point, may I have the honor to introduce our next speaker. Father Felix Delos Reyes Jr., OP, earned his bachelor's degree in sacred theology as well as his licentiate and master's in philosophy here at the University of Santo Tomas, Manila. Following his ordination, he served as a parochial vicar at Santo Domingo Parish in Quezon City and worked in the Dominican missions in the Babuyan Islands. He is currently an academic staff at the Faculty of Philosophy and is coordinator of the university's Center for Thomistic Studies. Father Felix also recently completed his doctoral studies in philosophy at the Angelicum College University in Rome. To present to us his lecture on Philosophy as the Foundation of Other Sciences, revisiting the discourse of the Thomasian Thomist, Norberto del Prado, OP, 1852 to 1918, we call on Reverend Father Felix de los Reyes Jr. of the Order of Preachers.
Good afternoon. So thank you for the kind introduction and for the invitation to speak this afternoon. For my presentation on Norberto del Prado, let me begin with this quotation from G.K. Chesterton. He said, "Real development is not leaving things behind as on a road, but drawing life from them as from a root." So real development is not leaving things behind as on a road, but drawing life from them as from a root. I believe, it's a fact, no, that scientific progress in general, so there's always something new, new innovations, new methods, new technologies. So once we have this new one, our tendency is to leave behind what was before. And as we progress, on the other hand, I also think that we are actually standing in the shoulders of giants. So there will be no Galileo without Copernicus, no Copernicus without Ptolemy, and no Ptolemy without Aristotle. In the same way, I believe that the development and progress here in UST, we can trace it also by looking back. So where we are right now, what we experience here in the university is because of those who came before us. And this afternoon, I'm going to share something on an intellectual who lived around 150 years ago, and his name is Norberto del Prado. So as a personal background, first, I'm not a scientist, and secondly, I'm not a historian. But what I'm going to share with you, well, is something historical. So in the recent years, I've been attracted to the history of UST. And as Thomasians, I think it should be a requirement for all of us, at least to be familiar and read this. No? So the 2-volume book of the historian Father Fidel Villaruel. And it's only recently that I have engaged myself with this, and I realized that we have a lot of treasures here in UST. So we can discover them in Father Villaruel's book. So we can find a lot of materials for further study. So in particular, my field is philosophy, and I became interested in this section of the book. So in the late 19th century, Father Villaruel describes that there are 3 great catedraticos, or we can call them philosophical chairs, no? Before the end of the period of 19th century. So the first one is Norberto del Prado. He's a philosopher and theologian who became popular in Spain and Switzerland. So doon siya sumikat, and that sparked to me a question. So kung ngayon, in my experience, in my studies in Rome, more or less napag-uusapan si Norberto del Prado, bakit dito sa UST, kung saan siya nag-aral at nagturo, parang hindi natin siya kilala. The second one is Evaristo Fernandez Arias. He is also a dogmatic and moral theologian. We'll mention them, about them later on. And the third one, I think, is more popular to science students, no? Father Castro de Helera. He was the professor of Ampliación de Historia Natural, and it's the science to which he dedicated almost all the rest of his life. And his greatest contribution is he is the author of the monumental catalog of Philippine fauna. So these three, we can consider are luminaries of UST towards the end of the 19th century. So going back to Del Prado, yeah, napag-uusapan siya sa ibang bansa, bakit hindi dito sa UST ay hindi. So that was my motivation. No? The challenge now is that karamihan sa sinulat ni Del Prado ay in Latin. So it's also a challenge for me. So what I'm going to share with you is his work in Spanish. So his work, it's a piece he delivered here in UST. So it's a Discurso de Apertura. So first, I'm going to introduce yung buhay niya, kasi nga hindi natin siya kilala. The second, which is the main point of this sharing, is I'm going to share among his many works, yung kanyang Discurso de Apertura, which was delivered in 1882. And after looking at this Discurso, I will go to proceed to the conclusion. So, kumbaga, in a way, checking. Ano na nga ba yung nangyari 150 years after? Okay, so sino ba si Norberto del Prado? Okay, so first, he was born on June 4, 1852, in the province of Oviedo in Spain. He entered the order of preachers at the age of 17 in the convent of Ocaña in Toledo and professed vows in 1869. So this convent, nasa picture, it also served as a novitiate for the Philippines. So the Dominicans who are going to Philippines, dito yung kanilang formation house. This is important because this is also where Norberto del Prado met his professor, Severino Gonzalez, so, who is also a Thomasian. So at that time, Severino Gonzalez was the Regent of Studies in Ocaña. In 1873, si Del Prado, he was sent here to Manila, and he was second-year student of theology at that time. In June 13, 1875, he was ordained to the priesthood by another Dominican, si Monsignor Francisco Gainza of Bicol, of Nueva Cáceres. So after that, he started teaching at UST. So this is the UST in Intramuros at that time. Then, he was also assigned at Letran. So he was professor of secondary education in Letran. And while he went back to UST to finish his master's and doctorate degree. And he was, 1878, he was transferred to UST as lecturer of philosophy. And in 1884, he was professor of theology. Okay, especially for those science students. In the 1880s, we have the following faculties dito sa UST. So the ecclesiastical faculties, Faculty of Civil Law, Medicine, and Pharmacy. So interesting, yung mga binanggit natin kanina, si Del Prado, tsaka si Arias, kasi nung una, they were actually hesitant na magkaroon ng lay professors. So because especially medicine, pharmacy, so dumadami yung lay professors sa UST, at medyo hesitant sila. So hindi sila hesitant na magkaroon really na magkaroon ng lay professors in itself, hindi yun yung reason. Kung hindi, they were cautious with what happened in Spain. So anong nangyari sa Spain? So with the rise of lay professors, naging hiwalay yung sciences and arts and letters sa pananampalataya. So yun yung concern nila. That's why medyo they have reservations sa pagkakaroon sa pagdami ng lay professors dito sa UST at that time. So remember, this is 1880s. No? Now, pero sabi din ni Del Prado at saka ni Arias, pero hindi na natin ito mapipigilan. The Spanish government will eventually oblige us to found a faculty of philosophy and letters and perhaps a faculty of science. So, ang nangyari nun, so after itong proposal ni Del Prado at ni Arias, they opened 2-year preparatory courses for as pre-law and pre-medicine. At tinawag ito na yung bagong buo na structure nito, tinawag ito na College of Liberal Arts. And from there, so doon na buo ang Faculty of Arts and Letters and the College of Science. So, if I'm not mistaken, celebrating 100 years ngayong taon na ito. So, pero decades before, so si Arias at si Del Prado, they were already thinking, I think kailangan na natin magtayo. Hindi lamang, so nandun yung courses, some of the courses being offered by this College of Liberal Arts, nandun na, pero mukhang kailangan natin na magtayo talaga ng isang faculty o ng isang college for that. Now, having greatly affected his health in the academic year 1889-1890, so he was asked to return to Spain, and from Spain, he was asked to transfer sa bagong tayo na Faculty of Theology in Fribourg, Switzerland, at doon siya sumikat. And then he died July 13, 1918. Okay, so after that long introduction, ayan. So major works, ginawa niya ito after his stint in UST. So they are in Latin. And until now, wala pa siyang English translation. So the first one is on grace, and the other one is on the fundamental truth of Christian philosophy. Okay, so we go now to the main point of the sharing, which is his Discourso. So imagine 1882 ay opening ng school year, so just like last August, no? And it was Del Prado who was delivering the Discourso de Apertura. Okay, so mali yung date, it should be 1882. Okay, so 1882, he delivered this Discourso with the title, La Filosofía es como la raíz, la base y la razón de ser de las demás ciencias. So philosophy is like the root, the basis, and the reason for being of other sciences. So yun yung title ng kanyang diskurso. Ngayon, background nung kanyang diskurso. Years before 1882, 1879, ang Santo Papa, si Pope Leo XIII, he issued an encyclical with the title Eterni Patris. At yung Eterni Patris, its purpose was, it's a response to secularism and modernism of that time. At paano makaka-respond ang simbahan to secularism and modernism at that time, ayon kay Leo XIII, it's through the restoration of Christian philosophy. So sabi dun sa introduction ni Del Prado sa kanyang diskurso, he was quoting Eterni Patris, all studies should accord with the Catholic faith, especially philosophy, on which a right interpretation of other sciences in great part depends. So philosophy and then other sciences. The study of philosophy, which shall respond most fitly to the excellence of faith, at the same time be consonant with the dignity of human science. So maaari natin tanungin, ano ba ang sinasabi ni Leo XIII, ni Pope Leo XIII, doon sa kanyang encyclical in relation to the natural sciences or the other sciences. Okay, so in summary, so bago tayo pumunta mismo kay Del Prado, ito yung background niya. So why Del Prado is delivering actually that address, that diskurso. Okay, so it's because of the new encyclical Eterni Patris. And he was, as regards natural sciences, the other sciences, so ito yung mababasa natin doon. Una, the Church Magisterium recognizes the value of natural sciences. So the Pope acknowledges the importance of these sciences. So, klaro tayo doon. Number two, as regards science and faith, so while Leo XIII supports scientific progress, he warns against the reduction of all knowledge to purely empirical or materialistic views. So, in themselves, they are good, but we also have to admit that they are limited. So that's the point of the Pope. And this brings us to number three, the limits of science. So while science can offer valuable insights into the workings of nature, it cannot provide answers to the ultimate questions of existence, morality, and the nature of God. So dito papasok ang philosophy and theology. And lastly, as regards the philosophical framework, so natural science should be interpreted and understood through the lens of Christian philosophy, which offers a comprehensive and coherent understanding of reality. Okay, so itong diskurso ni Del Prado is like an echo. So he has echoing the newly promulgated encyclical of the Church. Now, it's also worthy to note that in the beginning, ang sabi niya, okay, so dito sa diskurso na ito, nandiyan yung professors, of course, but in particular, I'd like to address the students. Okay? Sabi niya, the children of yesterday are the youth of, the children of yesterday are the youth of today, and the youth of today will be the grown men of tomorrow. And as learned men, they are most influential in the movement of society, giving the tone in all things, and hence the education of the youth carries the utmost significance and a truly profound impact. So in particular, it's really the students yung concern ni Del Prado. Now, in the following slides, I'm going to give some points, no, do sa kanyang diskurso, and we begin with this one, no, about progress. So, how shall we view progress according to Del Prado? So, speaking in the 1880s. Para sa kanya, there are three, no? There are three constitutions of a true civilization. That is, the first one, material progress. Second is intellectual progress. And third is moral progress. So para sa kanya, halimbawa, as regards to sciences, so ang background nito, as we shall see in the next slides, he's coming from the Industrial Revolution and the birth of modern science. At the same time, it was also the era of the beginnings, no, of capitalism. So given this modern background, everything is concerned with material progress. At the same time, it is also concerned with intellectual progress. Okay, so new discoveries, new technologies, pero sabi ni Del Prado, huwag natin kalimutan yung moral progress. And for a progress to happen in a civilization, kailangan nandun yung tatlo na ito. Sabi niya, the moral progress of towns is a reflection of its intellectual progress, which prints its direction and tendencies to material progress, and the three, together united, constitute true civilization. Yan. So the context is that, imagine, no? It's the 1880s, and the Industrial Revolution has begun some decades before. So people would go from the farms, no? People would flock to the city to work in the industries. And then with modern science, there are new inventions. And as I mentioned, and as regards to industries, this is the start of mass production. To lahat ay dinadaan sa mass production. And also capitalism. So that's why ito yung point ni Del Prado as regards that. Now, he's also quoting an author, no, a Spanish author, Severo Catalina. So, itong ganitong idea ng progress, which is holistic, no? Moral, intellectual, and material. So, sabi ni Catalina, why should not this progress be explained and defended, which harmonizing all legitimate interests is the only one that leads humanity to the happy end of its journey? So, kailangan nandun yung tatlo na yan. So in this way, material progress, intellectual progress, and moral progress, when they reach their plenitude, are identified and mixed in one. They are one and the same thing, consisting in the perfect possession of God. So in the end, at the end of our life, pagdating sa Diyos, so itong progress na ito ay isa na lang. So, Del Prado continues, God, this is the beginning, the middle, and the end of true and only progress. For God, from God we come, and from God we go. So it's very Thomistic, no? Quoting the framework of St. Thomas Aquinas. Everything that leads us to God is good. It is progress. And everything that takes us away from Him is positively bad. It is regression. For this reason, material progress must be subordinated to moral progress. Otherwise, being in itself very good and praiseworthy, it will be the cause of greater evils. There is nothing worse than civilized savagery. So now we proceed to the second point, the philosophy and natural sciences. So all sciences, even the physical sciences, which are so highly esteemed today, at that time, as said by Pope Leo XIII, will receive great help and must expect increase and promise great advantages from this restoration of the philosophical sciences that we propose, from the restoration of good and solid philosophy, richest and truth, broadest and highest in its aims, most upright and universal in its principles and consequences, the philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas. So, saan ba natin iaangkla yung natural sciences, yung kanyang philosophical framework, kumbaga, ang suggestion ni Pope Leo XIII is through the philosophy, with the philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas. Now we have this question: is it not a preference given to so-called natural sciences and the almost complete abandonment of philosophical studies? So the true cause and principal origin of that incredible ignorance, which is often easy to observe even in educated and literary men, concerning the great religious and moral problems that most closely interest humanity. So this is in the 1880s. Ito na yung observation. So the natural sciences being separated from philosophical studies. So philosophy should occupy among the different branches of human knowledge. For philosophy is like the root, the basis, and the reason for the existence of the other sciences, but it also needs the light of divine teachings. So philosophy, it is the one holding these sciences together as the knowledge of all things with their essences and properties, with their causes and effects, with their principles and consequences. Having being, the most general use of the term, which is the subject matter of philosophy, being the subject matter of philosophy itself. So the extensive, total, and adequate object of human understanding. Okay, this is not Del Prado, but as regards philosophy and the natural sciences, I have this analogy. Okay, so this is the story of three workers, no? So, meron daw tatlong manggagawa, laborers, and they were asked, no? So the first, so nung dumaan yung isang mama, halimbawa, ay tinanong niya yung unang laborer, so what are you doing? Ang sabi nung first laborer, I am laying bricks. And then, yung pangalawa ay laborer din. Ang tinanong din siya, so ano bang ginagawa mo? What are you doing? I am building a wall. And then the third one, ikaw din, ano bang ginagawa mo? Ang sagot ng laborer, I am creating a cathedral. So, in a way, siguro, we can use this imagery to illustrate, no, the role of the sciences, natural sciences, and philosophy. Okay, so each natural science is concerned with a particular field of study. For example, siguro sabihin na natin, no, with the bricks. So yun yung concern nila. So basta ang concern ko is laying the bricks. Of course, which is needed, no, in the building of the cathedral. On the other hand, siguro sabihin natin, the architect or the engineer, he sees not only the bricks, but the whole project. And ang nakikita niya, we are creating a cathedral. So both of them actually need each other. So meaning, the architect or the one who sees the bigger picture, he should rely on someone, who should depend on someone who sees also the details. At the same time, those who are working on the details, on the particulars, should be dependent on the one who sees the bigger picture. So like the planets revolving around the sun in the intellectual world, in the heaven of human intelligence, each science has its own sphere, and within it resolves and moves all of them, and heaven recognized as a center of attraction and life towards which they gravitate. In the same way, philosophy is the highest and noblest representation, which is metaphysics, is from which the sciences receive their principles, from whose transcendental questions torrents of light spring forth, which spread and pour forth, illuminating it throughout the world of truth. So the point is that it is philosophy in particular, this branch called metaphysics, who could govern, who could direct the other sciences. So, ano ba talaga yung role ng philosophy in this sense? So first, philosophy provides the first principles of science. Then second, in the very universality of its object are included the objects of the other sciences. So philosophy, it deals, sabi natin kanina, with being, and it's the most universal, no? So the very universality of its objects are included the objects of the other sciences. And lastly, can deal with immaterial beings. Since immateriality is the root of intelligibility, the higher and more elevated elevated above matter the object of a science is, the greater its dignity and excellence. So, ang payo ni Del Prado, before undertaking the study of beings, their properties, and their relations in particular, it is useful and very important and indispensable to have a scientific knowledge of beings, their properties, and their relations in general. So I'll skip some slides, and we proceed to this one, philosophy and the natural sciences and theology. So if all branches of human knowledge pay homage to philosophy, the latter in turn must pay homage and obedience to theology. So if you remember, kanina we have intellectual progress, moral progress, and material progress. In the view of Del Prado, it should not only be natural sciences, it should be coupled with philosophy, and that's not enough. We also need theology. So if all branches of human knowledge pay homage to philosophy, the latter in turn must pay homage and obedience to theology. If philosophy is the queen and mistress of the sciences and the arts, theology is the crowning of all gifts and grandeur of the spirit, giving science greater elevation and reason greater breadth. So I'll now proceed to the conclusion. Okay, so as regards the question, how did civilization progress? Sabi ni Del Prado, our problems and the suffering in civilized societies often come with a misguided desire for knowledge. When the world turns away from God and tries to hide from His presence, it's because humanity has fallen from the trap of seeking knowledge that was never meant to be ours. It's natural for people to follow reason in their actions, but when reason is lacking or misguided, the will and emotion easily follow in the wrong direction. Our feelings are shaped by our ideas, our hearts by our understanding, and our behaviors by the beliefs we hold. So these ideas, the last sentence, will often be absurd, misguided, and harmful, leading people astray rather than offering real wisdom. Okay, in conclusion, so that's the view of Del Prado in 1882. And I believe it still resounds today. I mean, we have still the same problems. And it's my hope that by reintroducing Del Prado's contribution, we hope to restore his rightful place in the intellectual history of our university and reaffirm the enduring relevance of his teachings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Father Felix. With such short time, we may entertain at least 2 questions from the audience. So the floor is now open for those 2 questions. As you do so, before that, please state your name, your affiliation, and maybe also request the question to be well-focused. Okay, so maybe while some are still formulating that question, I'll take the first one. So I'll take the first ticket. I think, Father, I have observed some alignment in the vocabulary between Gonzales, Eterni Patris, and Fray del Prado. They all sound Victorian, as though putting Thomism, probably with the agenda to call for the revival of Thomism. Now, may I ask, Father, what could be the precise contribution of Fray del Prado Okay, at that point in time in 1882, is it aligned, considering that they're also aligned in terms of vocabulary?
Yeah. As regards the Victorian language, no, actually that's also my difficulty. I mean, so I try to read the discurso in Spanish and make a translation of it. And I mean, even in English, I mean, we don't speak this way, no, nowadays. So that's one difficulty in reading these texts from century ago. And then as regards the, yeah, it's true. Eterni Patris, I think the Severino Gonzalez, yung professor ni Del Prado, was working before Eterni Patris. So pre-Eterni Patris siya. And then itong diskurso is right after, no, 2 years after the Eterni Patris, the encyclical. So I think it's one of the first parabang avenues where what was set by this reform was talked about in UST. If I may share po, no, I think it was in our class, no, in Seminar on Thomism. Actually, the description, if you read Villarroel, the description was there was a when Eterni Patris reached UST. So parang ang imagination ko is that this friar Joaquin Fonseca, who is also a philosopher theologian, dala niya yung copy ng Eterni Patris at nagkaroon ng welcome walk. No, para bang it's all the festivities, all festivities. And we were asking then that question, hindi ba alam lang pinag-usapan ang encyclical sa university? And I think that's one, I mean, it came years after. So 1879, siguro I think it took 1 year bago nakarating dito sa atin yung encyclical. And then, during the opening of the next academic year, yun yung pinag-usapan. That's the discourse of Del Prado.
All right. Thank you, Father. Do we have other questions? So yes, Dr. Job.
Good afternoon, Father. Job Aguas from Philosophy Department. You mentioned, Father, about Del Prado following yung encyclical ni Leo XIII, that when it comes to the sciences, we have to base the sciences on the philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas. Siguro medyo bias lang ako for St. Albert the Great kasi yun yung magiging paper ko mamaya. Pero if you're going to put side by side St. Thomas at saka St. Albert the Great, when it comes to their contribution to the sciences, the natural sciences, di ba mas lamang ang contribution ni St. Albert kaysa kay St. Thomas Aquinas? Your thoughts on this, Father?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not really. I mean, I'm not as familiar to as I'm not really familiar with Saint Albert the way I'm familiar with Saint Thomas. No? But what I know is that Saint Albert is really a natural scientist, meaning so that's and Saint Thomas is not. Okay, what Thomas contributed is the framework. No? So the framework on how we will deal with philosophy and theology being sciences in themselves. So we are not yet, I mean, this is before the modern period, where the natural sciences, kumbaga, it became, in a way, separated no? from the rest of the sciences. So sciences, I mean, science in general, in the medieval sense, St. Thomas contributed on that, on explaining, especially in theology, that even theology is a science, meaning it's a systematic body of knowledge. No? So, following Aristotle. So, yun po. So, what I know is St. Albert contributed really directly to the natural sciences. I think he became the parang foundation of other scientists later on, whether merong corrections, but still, as I mentioned, it was important no, for the succeeding natural scientists. On the other hand, St. Thomas was not really a natural scientist, but his framework, I mean, is very important for all the sciences.
Thank you, Father.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I see a hand over there? That will have to be the third question, Father. I'm sorry, so please.
Good afternoon po. Thank you for accommodating my question. Thank you, Father, for the lecturer. I'd like to ask, when Father Norberto del Prado he talked about philosophy as the foundation of other sciences, is there a practical application of this idea of his in the way that the university runs? I brought this up, Father, actually, if you would know from another fora last week we had, that if you will notice the way UST in particular, but actually universities in general, globally, are now developed into highly specialized and highly fragmentized fields of knowledge. So I observed madaming students here from different colleges, and I'm pretty sure it's easy to say that philosophy is the foundation of these sciences, but in a practical sense, it will be too much for them to study philosophy sa dami ng kailangang aralin in their own field. But is there a way that we can operationalize this idea of philosophy as the foundation of other sciences? Or is it just an abstract idea na it's practically impractical in today's society? Your thoughts on that, Father? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. When I was reading the Discourse and looking at our situation, contemporary situation right now, it's really the thing that came to my mind. It's about the fragmentation of knowledge. So parang, in a way, Del Prado was, and Eterni Patris and Del Prado were, para bang, it's like a prophecy, no? That, as I mentioned a while ago, the science that we know is not anymore connected to philosophy or theology, but they have their own disciplines, no? So it's really about the fragmentation of knowledge, no? We really need to think about it, no? And it's not an easy task, no? But I think that's really the role of the university, no? So to pull these disciplines together and to see the unity, no? So anong kinalaman ng nasa College of Science, College of Education, College of Engineering sa philosophy and sa Faculty ng Theology, so something like that. So it's not just a conglomeration of disciplines, but we really philosophy can provide the thread, no, that pulls all this together. So meaning even though I'm working on, for example, anatomy or something like that, I can see not only this, but its relation to the whole of reality. No? I think that's what philosophy can give, no? Given the extensiveness of the discipline of philosophy. And I think also, in a real situation, that's why I think when you take your doctorate, it's always, not always, at least oftentimes, it's always Doctor of Philosophy in blank. Okay? So, handun pa rin yun, at least in name. No? So, Ph.D. It's always Ph.D. in education, Ph.D. in whatever discipline. So, I think we should look into that. No? So, okay, so we are taking Ph.D. in another discipline aside from philosophy. So, paano nga ba nahuhubog ng philosophy kung meron man itong inaaral ko ngayon?
All right. Thank you, Father. So at this point, we end our open forum and maybe call on stage Professor Tongol and Professor Sagut to award the Certificate of Appreciation to our distinguished presenter. So the certificate reads, the Pontifical and Royal University of Santo Tomas, the Catholic University of the Philippines, presents this Certificate of Appreciation to Father Felix F. Delos Reyes, OP, Ph.D., in grateful acknowledgement of his contribution as invited speaker with a paper titled Philosophy as the Foundation of Other Sciences, Revisiting the Discourse of the Thomasian Thomist Norberto del Prado, OP, 1852 to 1918, during the Forum on Science and Faith on the 20th of February 2025 at the Thomas Aquinas Research Complex Auditorium, UST, Manila, Philippines. Signed, Professor Bernard John Tongol, Ph.D., Director of Arsinas, Professor Joel C. Sagut, Ph.D., Director of CTRSE, and Reverend Professor Janelle N. Abogado, OP, Vice Rector for Research and Innovation, University of Santo Tomas. Thank you very much, Father Felix, and a warm round of applause. Maraming salamat po. So at this point, we will have a 15-minute health break as it is 2:55. So we have to be back by 3:10 here at the hall. Thank you very much.